Hola, buenas tardes. Good afternoon, everybody. We are in for a special treat today. As I mentioned to y'all on Tuesday, I would be going live with two of my faves to talk about one of my favorite conversations, a topic that has, made a huge difference in this new life I've created in the last 10 years. But before we bring them on, in case there are any new people here, either live or watching from the future, hello, welcome to the Picky Girl Nation. I am Adelia Aborashade. This is my channel. It is my little corner of the internet where I do and share everything that I can to help women change their lives. And give them the freedom and the permission to live the lives that they've always wanted. I am a financial educator. I am also co-host of Reclaim the Retreat. I like to say it is literally my job to help you live your best life. So if you want to travel more, you want to know more about living abroad, or you want to know more about understanding your finances and getting your money into good shape, you are in the right place and you should subscribe to the channel and so that you can get notifications the next time that I go live, like I am today with my two fabulous guests. Hello, ladies.
Hey
Hey
there.
now.
How are you? So happy to be here.
Yes.
Well,
Thank you for
well,
having me back on the channel.
I was going to say, y'all both been guests here before. So I'm
Mhm.
sure for most of the folks here, they know you, but just in case, today, guys, we are joined by, uh, like I said, two of my faves, Krishan of Blacksit Global, a platform dedicated to educating, informing, empowering, and inspiring both brothers and sisters of the African diaspora to pursue a life abroad. And then, of course, we have Miss Halisi of Our Black Utopia, a platform where she and her husband Rick help folks who are close to retirement age get their financial act together so that they can retire, maybe even retire early and pursue the life that they've always wanted to lead. So I think it's obvious why I like these ladies so much. So,
We're on the
okay.
freedom
And
train.
that's right.
Or
That's,
really the
I,
freedom
I,
plane.
somebody asked me, I always drop the ball, fumble a bag when somebody asks me what I do. And because it sounds weird to be like, well, I help people get free. Like, but that's what I do. That's what y'all do.
Mhm.
So having y'all on the channel makes complete sense. Um, and one of the things that I want to talk about with y'all today is community. I feel
Mm.
like it's kind of a bit of a buzz term right now, but I feel like it's more than that. And the work that y'all do, that is evident. Both of you have YouTube channels, and there's some community that's there, as well as you have actual communities. Um, I don't know who wants to go first to talk about the communities that you have as part of the work that you do.
Yeah. Yeah. Krishan, do you want to go first?
Sure. So, as Adelia said, I'm Krishan Wright, the founder of Black Sick Global and the host of the Black Sick Global podcast, which Adelia and Halisi have been guests on. And we're getting ready for season 7. And really, a large part of Black Sick Global has been and is and always will be fostering community, fostering those connections, because I started Black Sick Global many years before I actually made my move abroad. And so I sat in the seat where many people who are watching us are, right? And they hadn't yet taken the leap. But I knew that even though I had been working towards my Black Sit for several years on the low, um, there came a time where I needed community, and that was during the pandemic when we were social distancing, we were isolated, and I was closing in on myself, and the hole seemed cavernous. And the more I started going down that hole, I realized, I need to put a stop to this. I need to create the thing that I needed in the world at that point in time. And much to my surprise and delight, there were other people who were fed up, tired of being overlooked, overworked, right, underpaid, underappreciated, unappreciated, and knew that there was something more. And through that community, I've met, you two ladies, as well as Stephanie and Rashida and our collective communities. And we have been able to really, create this beautiful tapestry of empowerment and freedom. And so that is why I'm so passionate about what I get to do every day. I wish when I was a little kid, when they asked you, what did you want to be when you grew up, that was an option instead of saying the doctor, lawyer, right? It's like, chief freedom officer, right?
For real though. For
Yeah.
real.
So that's me in a nutshell.
I don't think when we started this journey, we knew we were going to be building community. And I should know better because I had done it before, only with youth. And I just wanted to teach them about entrepreneurship. And I ended up being a mentor for life, to the point where when we went back to the States, not for my mom, but the planned one was actually for one of my mentees who was getting married. And so when we started the YouTube channel, it really was to kind of document our journey, and so our family could follow us. Because, Gloria Benson was like having a cow. She swore I was moving to Puerto Rico. And I'm like, why you keep talking about Puerto Rico, Mom? It starts with a P, don't it?
Couple letters are the same, just in
You know
different
I don't
order.
know geography. It's like, this is a college educated woman, okay? But anyway, so we launched March 2022, and we launched because when we finally figured out the money thing, we looked
Mhm.
around at our friends who I thought had their stuff together much more than we did, but really they were just making more money, I think, or they're more in debt. I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know. But I looked around and I was like, why everybody still working so hard? I'm a decade older than you two. And so, and my friends in Denver were about more closer to my age. And so I was like, dang, everybody's still working hard. They ain't figured it out either. And so if I can help folks in my community, because no one was talking about fire in my circles,
No,
no
not,
one.
yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I'm about to save Black Denver. That was my thing. I'm about to save Black Denver. We gonna tell all them bosses deuces, right? So so that's all I thought about. And so between that and the move here to Lisbon, Portugal, um, I have I have been overwhelmed and humbled by the community that has been created around our Black utopia. Really, really humbled. I remember looking at folks who had, 47,000 subscribers, and I was like, wow, it must have taken 5, 6, 7 years to do that. They didn't have Stephanie Perry School of YouTube. So that gave me a little head start, but still, I'm still humbled, and I'm still just surprised every day. And I know we're going to get more into building physical community as well. But, you know, I see names. I see names that are in your chat that are part of our community as well, right? And it's like coming home. It's like, yeah, there y'all are. There you, Anya and Jess, so and by Pacific Northwest, I see y'all, right? And so that was something that really surprised me. was the community that we built. And then when we started Beyond the Bling, our financial course for late bloomers, um, that is another subset of the community, and they're in Fire Over 50 Facebook group, and we are all just supporting each other. Now we've got folks in Fire Over 50 that have already fired, like you, Adelia, who help the other ones, and we crowdsource and we get it done. And I love the fact that we are all here helping each other get towards building our own Black utopia.
I think I am struck by okay, I don't know if there is anybody new watching this, but of course, I live in Mexico, you two live in Portugal, that leaving the United States, particularly for our community, can sometimes be seen as like a negative thing, like you're giving up community, you are
Mhm.
abandoning community and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It is not lost on me that it is primarily when we were all moving in this space, either planning a move, researching a move, that's really where the community began to develop, or
Mhm.
we were able to see the power up. And that I think is really, really interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I was talking to one of my good friends from the States, and I was showing her the pictures for my birthday party. And she was like, "So you have more friends there than you ever had here, huh?" And I was like, "Yeah, actually, yeah. For one thing, everybody's not working 60 and 70 hours a week,
That part.
right? Right? I mean, that's the main thing.
Mhm.
But then the States breeds competition. I'm just going to put it like that.
Mhm. Yeah,
It
and it for me was a lonely endeavor in a lot of ways. Like, obviously, for me, that was the country of my birth. I have a huge extended family on both sides. My brothers and I lived in the same state, but yet I'd be lucky if I saw some people once or twice a year. The most interactions I had were with colleagues who we had work in common, not necessarily kinship or fellowship or the real community ties. And it was through creating Black Sit Global and creating these virtual connections that, over the years have become real life connections. Like Adelia and I got the chance to spend time together finally face to face in New Jersey for the first time. You came here last year. Halisi and I met about maybe a year and a half ago in person during the meetup. And so that has really been the beauty of this, the unexpected thing that I didn't know I needed, because I just thought I needed to get out of America. And people thought I was crazy. I wanted to move to New Zealand since I was a little girl. And how does a little Black girl from the Bronx come up with New Zealand of all places? And then, as I get seasoned in my career and have my children and everything, and then decide, hey, you know what, I'm jumping ship. I want to move abroad. And everybody's like, no, we on this path. You got this good job, and why? Like, isn't it the scary thing? And you really have to realize that you survive 100% of your worst days and 100% of your best days. And really, if you take a chance on bet on yourself and you stretch outside your comfort zone, that's where the magic happens. That's where the things that were seemingly impossible come into fruition. And so for me, I tell anybody who's like on the fence, those are real emotions. I'm not going to say it's not a valid concern, but what I will say is when you are around people who are thinking differently, different than the herd, and said, you know what, I want to figure this out. And there are other people who are willing to help you, even though we have made our moves. We're in the trenches. We're still helping people get their freedom. you know I think that is what separates the people who are successful in their move versus the people who maybe talk about it but will never get over that hump. They've got a million and one reasons why they are the exception. Oh, I have elderly parents. I have kids in school. I've got this house. I want to leave this to something. You're going to find a reason. But what you have to realize is those reasons and those excuses, and I say excuses, with respect, is that that's your brain trying to keep you safe. That's your brain saying, I don't know about this abroad stuff. Like I've watched World News Tonight. Like it's the scary thing, right? Because we all believe that the US, or conditioned to believe that the US is the sun and the other countries are the planets that revolve around it. But what we're suggesting is you break free from that paradigm and get in community and get out of there.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that. Your choice, you originally, Krishan, was New Zealand,
Mhm.
but yet you ultimately decided on Portugal. And Halisi, I know initially y'all thought maybe South Africa, maybe Spain, and somehow you've ended up in Portugal. So my question is, why Portugal?
Portugal is bay. So, there, I think it's for me. There's multiple levels of it, and multiple reasons, of course, with everything. But one thing is okay. I was tired of the cold. So that ruled out a lot of places. Coming from Denver, I'm a California girl, then moved to Denver for business reasons, and I ski, so I do love the snow, but I like it up there, not down here where I'm living. I'll go to it. So I had to get out, and so yeah, it was Spain. I was taking Spanish, and Rick was in his man cave and Google, are there black people in Portugal? So I, like you, Adelia, I love geography. So I had this big world map with little you remember those little dots that you use in teaching, and you put the different colored
Mhm.
dots. So I had dots for all the places we have been, and then a different color for all the places that we wanted to go. And so he's in there looking. He's like, huh, Portugal's right next to Spain. I wonder about that. So he Googled, are there black people in Portugal? And folks start popping up. And so he comes to me talking about Portugal, and I'm like, look, I'm taking Spanish. I don't know what you're talking about with the SHIT, but unless they speak Spanish there in Portugal, that's a no go. Plus, didn't they start the slave trade? And I was raised by Sister Soldier and Malcolm X, so don't start with me. Now, like Spain is not just as racist. Well, actually, it's more racist. But all I had was my tourist version of Spain, and I had a good old time. So it was going to be Barcelona, or it was going to be Mexico by this time, or maybe some place in South America. But then we came, and um, I remember like the day one or two, because we were staying on the other side of the river, and we went on this, we tried to get lost. So we got on the tram and we just started riding to the end of it. And we get off and get back on, walk around and get back on. And I saw this old white man nurturing this black baby. And I was like, huh, that's interesting. I don't really see that in the States. I hear all
No.
these white folks talking about they got black grandkids, but I don't see the nurturing part, right? That's what I don't see. And so we rode it to the end, and it got browner and browner and browner as we got to the end of the line. And I was like, oh, here we are. Here we are. And so that was really interesting. And I was like, okay, so I blend in. They're trying to talk to me in Portuguese. I don't know what they're saying. They're trying to talk to me in Portuguese, so they think I'm Portuguese. I'm not going to be a walking wallet. I'm not going to forever look like an immigrant. I like that. And so that was one of the things. But I think this incident was the thing that kind of encompasses why Portugal. So it was hot because June gets hot. And she's like, it was hot in April. But that was a weird
Was.
April. That was a weird April. That really was a real weird stretch of time because usually it's cooler than that. But anyway, so I'm hot. I hadn't eaten and I'm feeling kind of dizzy. We're in the grocery store and I just plop my ass down on an end cap. And I'm like fanning. I don't have a real fan. I'm fanning. About four different Portuguese ladies came over to me to ask if I was okay. And a couple of them did not speak English, but they could speak enough English to ask, okay, okay, you know. And so one of the ones that did, I said, yeah, my husband's just over there looking for whatever he was looking for. He'll come back and get me. And she circled back around about 7 minutes later. Do you need me to go get him for you? It's like, that would never happen in the States. Not in Denver anyway. I don't know, maybe
How
down
sad
south.
is that? How sad is that?
Yeah, right. And these are all white Portuguese too. These are not black Portuguese asking me.
It is interesting to hear you recount those two incidents, and that often when people hear a Black American talking about visiting, let alone moving to a European country, they want to say, well, okay, like Portugal started the slave trade. But that's the other side of it, is this is a place where looking like you look, folks who don't look like you were still inclined to see your humanity and want to make sure that you were okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And we all know, all of us know, that is not a very likely experience to have in the United States, a country we were all born in.
Our home country, our birth country. Yeah, yeah. It's a
In
test.
America, it's a crime at birth, right? Because
Yeah.
you have a high Black infant mortality rate as well as maternal, right?
Mhm.
Mortality rate. You have, a high poverty in some instances where it is forecasted that we will be a permanent underclass because at the pace by which, we are out earned by our European American counterparts, right? Despite the fact that we, as Black women, are the most educated demographic in the United States, we're starting businesses at a highest rate possible, right? And when you see these numbers and you try to make sense of it all, as well as the history, you're like, wow, yes, true fact. Portugal did start the transatlantic slave trade, but the US has perfected and optimized and turned it into from chattel slavery to, student loans, mortgages, labor busting,
Prison
you name it,
system.
over policing, right? Stop and frisk, like all of these things. Um, have morphed and they continue to that. And even things that we're confronted with today, right? We're little over 2 weeks away from the general election for the president of the United States. And yet, even if there is a huge groundswell of voters, right, which people have been, energized and activated, I'm not suggesting that that's not a good thing. I think it's great. I've already voted, is that there's still a fail safe in their favor with the Electoral College, which is what happened in 2016. Hillary won the popular vote, the Electoral College, she did not win, right? And then there's the Supreme Court, which intervened during Gore v. Bush, right? So there are all of these things that are vestiges of slavery that continue to impact us today, in present day, in 2024. And yet all of us were worldwide, right? Inside, held captive, right? During the pandemic and we saw the murders of Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, we still did not see justice. We did in the case of George Floyd. However, we still don't have the George Floyd justice and policing legislation. We still don't have voter protection that, John Lewis, who fought so bravely for, is still not enacted today. We see the reduction, erasure of reproductive rights in our history in terms of everything from critical race theory, you name it, right? And so when I hear people talk about the history of Portugal, and granted we're here, I'm like, you got to understand, where are you at, right? Where's the energy around that indictment? Where's the reality? Because would you say that to somebody who is from Mozambique, who's from Guinea-Bissau, who's from Cape Verde,
Angola.
I
Angola?
wouldn't.
Because they're all here, right? And I have had more interactions with brothers and sisters from the motherland than I ever had in the United States. And I'm from the Bronx, right? And so for me, my journey here, and the reason why, yes, my original journey was New Zealand, and I don't look at Portugal as my second choice. I feel like, the universe and everything intervened in such a beautiful way to make this beyond my wildest expectations. I remember being on a plane on my second scouting trip to New Zealand with my cousin, and she was on her phone doing Duolingo. And I was like, "Oh, what are you learning?" She's like, "Oh, Portuguese." And I was like, "Oh, why?" She's like, "Oh, when I retire, I want to move to Portugal." Now, this is in 2020. And I was like, "Ooh, where's that?"
Okay,
In
Gloria.
2020, mind you, I moved here in September of 2023. And so I went from not knowing anything, and for me it was an evolution, right? I started solo traveling and going towards English speaking countries, to get my feet wet, my sea legs underneath me, my confidence. And then as, my travels progressed, I started going to countries where English wasn't widely spoken, or at least not the primary language, right? I went to Iceland and Greece and all these other places, Curacao, etc. And so by the time I came to Portugal in my first scouting trip in 2022, I was less intimidated by the language and more enamored with how I felt, which was very similar to what Halisi had shared. I felt seen, I felt respected. I felt like I also blended in to where people would approach me and automatically speak to me in Portuguese. And I was just like, what? And I felt safe in a way that I had always felt abroad, but safe in a way that I did not ever feel in the United States. And so now, having been here 14 plus months, and I say this all the time, is like my nervous system thanks me for making this decision and investing in myself, believing in myself. And so for anybody who's, on the fence about a decision to move abroad, and even questions about Portugal, I think that's why we created, the summit, which I know we'll talk about in a little bit. But it is so important for you to get out of the matrix, to stop the hamster wheel, and to put the oxygen mask on yourself, because we have been conditioned for so long to believe that we have to be the beast of burden, that we have to carry the load, and that, no more is going to be thrust upon you than you can handle. And this is all gaslighting, right? You have to start to deconstruct these things, understand, well, if that's a belief, where did that belief originate and who benefits from me believing and buying into that? Because oftentimes the person who is benefiting isn't you. And so it is really time for us to band together and to seek and embrace our freedom.
I think, just like you were saying, like stepping away from or questioning those beliefs, those ideals that we carry with us. And at the same time, people feel like, like that's something people say. But as you were saying that, I was just thinking of like how revolutionary it is to say, the status quo, I'm not going to participate in this because this idea that like, oh, you don't get a burden heavier than you can carry, that sounds like some shit you tell people you want to work themselves to death. Like, you know? And so here you two, and I'm in this as well, have chosen to live life in a different way. And I think I think we have to say something about the weight of that decision because the United States is the greatest country in the world. It is the place where everybody else is trying to go. Now, I don't know if y'all get this, but of course, because I have chosen to live in Mexico, I get, well, aren't they all trying to come here? Why are you trying to move there? I would imagine most Americans, I was a former geography teacher, so I know this is true. Most Americans probably don't know quite where Portugal is. So maybe they don't know, but there is this sense of, well, if you are trying to leave, like there's the folks that are like, oh, where you're like turning your back, on your country, blah, blah, blah. But then it's also like, but this country is so great. And
Mhm.
so I guess I have to ask, because you've both been there at least a year, how does your life now compare to the life you were living in the greatest country in the world?
It's like night and day. you
Right?
know, I just a few months ago celebrated my 50th birthday, and I chartered a yacht and had a big old party. Halisi and Rick were there, and some other folks that have come into my life since moving abroad, as well as friends of mine that I've known for decades. I could not have afforded to do that. A whole catered yacht with staff and open bar and all that. No, right? I live in a beautiful apartment and it is half the price that I was paying in the States, And so some of the things that I've been able to do, the people I've been able to meet, the experiences that I've been afforded, not just through the expat community, which is great, right? The Black expat community is such an amazing community here, but even with locals, right? And so I just feel so blessed and fortunate to be on this journey, as well as to know that if I wanted to go, and which I have, I've traveled to other countries. I went to Spain last month in the UK, planning to go to the continent finally next year. And just the accessibility to do these things, like, it's just, this was the life that I always wanted. And yes, I did some pretty awesome things in the States, but pretty awesome things at a pretty expensive cost. And at the end of the day, as I'm maybe more than halfway through my lifetime, I don't want to work until I die, right? I want to be able to enjoy the fruits of my labor while most things are true. And I say most being good health, because even though I'm here and I'm having a great experience, there's the aging process that happens. Things start to move a little differently than they did before, right? I have money because I made a concerted effort to invest after my divorce and think about my future self, but not thinking I was going to retire early. Fire wasn't even on the radar. And so sometimes we think, oh, if we stay in it, our future self, when we're 65 or 70, when they tell us we're at retirement age, you might have the money, but you may not have the wealth. You may have time, right? So you're not going to have all three, right? Most likely, because I look at the generation before me as a reference point. My mom and her peers and my aunts and uncles, right, where they may have money but they don't have health, and they have time but they have declining time because no one knows when that end date is. And so when you choose yourself and you're like, look, this is only The thing I know for sure is the time I have right now, the body I'm in right now. And again, going back to what I said earlier of surviving 100% of my worst and best days, I'm going to bet on me. I'm going to bet on
Yeah.
me, and I'm going to choose me 100% of the time because I know what the payoff is.
Yeah. 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 There's no comparison. And thankfully I found you, Adelia, and you led me to Stephanie and Rashida. And between, I called you guys my CDMX crew. Rick was so tired of hearing about y'all. I was like, look, we don't need as much money. We don't have to do full fire. We can do this. And because we were going to wait until we fully fired and did not need his Social Security. Why? Because that's what
Why?
I
They
thought,
sending y'all a check every month anyway.
right? Like, so, in those days, like when in December 2021, I was the executive director of the Colorado Democratic Party, and I was working about 70 hours a week. And yeah, the election had just ended, and we were already getting ready for the next one because that's how it goes. Okay, now we got to find some candidates because we got to run somebody in every seat and blah, blah, blah. Yes, I rest? Damn. And my dad was going in and out of the hospital, and I was his caretaker. So between the two of them, I was like, somebody's going to die. And I don't think it's going to be me because I have a pretty good survival mentality. So y'all going to die if I don't quit. I was so crazy. My hair was falling out. I was like 119 pounds and I couldn't keep weight on. Now I can't keep it off. I mean, now I can't get rid of it. But and yet my blood work is still just as good, right? That part. So and I know because I just had blood work a month ago, and I was like, wow, okay, all right, at least he's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. But in any event, so I went from that and being overextended and not knowing how to say no and I was in, one of the co-chairs of a state commission. And then I was on the board of Colorado Black Women for Political Action and, all this stuff. It's like, just busy, 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 helping everybody else and dying at home. Rick and I would see each other passing in the hallways, and because he was in hospitality, he was working crazy hours too. Sometimes he wouldn't get home till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, then have to turn around and be back at like 10 o'clock in the morning. And he was the boss. So, that was the life that I had. Now, since then, I just realized, we have been subsidizing my mom's lifestyle, as I put. She said, "I ain't got no lifestyle." I was like, "Well, stop asking me for money then." For since like 2014, but we bought her condo from her. I gave it to her back in the day, and I bought it back because she reverse mortgaged it and almost lost it. We have been paying that mortgage since February 2022 and are still paying it because there's not a renter in there. I thought I had one today. I was like, damn. And the money's still there.
Yeah.
See, and this is the thing, guys. Some of it has to be a step out on faith. Have a plan. Definitely have a plan. You got to have a plan. But some of it is going to have to be faith because the math doesn't make sense. But all I know is the same amount of money I had in our emergency fund when I left is like $5,000 difference after 2.5 years, right? And so now my alarm goes off at 8:30, and maybe I'll get up, or maybe I'll sit in bed and watch YouTube on my phone, and then do some Pilates in bed with my little app. And then maybe 11 o'clock, I'll get dressed and go take my walk outside and get my steps in. and then come back and try to answer some comments or something like that. Or Rick and I will do a walkabout, especially when it's not raining. So we just I always know where we're going, but I can't tell him, because if he knows we're about to walk for 2 hours, he's going to say, well, wait a minute. We walked like, I'd say 14 miles one day, all the way to Parque das Nações from our house. And he's like, so where are we going? I was like, oh, we'll just keep walking. I knew exactly where we were going. Um, but that's how, to me, that's part of my entertainment. I get to see the city. It's like, oh, look at this little museum. Oh, let's go in here. Where did this, and we get to know the city. You can't learn the city like that on public transportation, much less in an Uber. But
Yeah.
when you walk the city, you really get to know it. And so, my life now is just like, what am I gonna do today? Oh, maybe nothing. Maybe not a damn thing. Well, not that the summit's coming up, so no, I don't have that for the next 2 weeks. But after that, maybe not a damn thing.
So what I'm hearing is not only is your life different in Portugal than it was in the US, it is better, it is more relaxing, you have more free time, are getting to do the things that you enjoy doing. That does not sound like a bad deal at all. Now, we started this conversation talking about community, and Krishan mentioned something about like competition. And because that's what we're fed on in the United States. And here you
Mhm.
both were kind of like doing your own thing, but then have decided to partner and work together. I know, didn't y'all hosted a meetup
Hmm.
Mhm.
twice?
Yeah,
Yeah.
last June.
Hmm.
Last June,
Okay,
it
well,
was fabulous.
okay, why did you do that? Like, because it sounds like you could just be living your life and having a good time. So why get together? Why partner? Why host the meetup?
So I started the meetup in 2022 because, or 2023. Wait, where are we? Yeah,
It's
2023.
2024.
Because, and then we just had 2024. So we did have it twice. So I started in 2023 because I used a meetup as my target date. And I was like, well, maybe we could provide that opportunity for other folks, you know. And
When
it
you
ended up
say target date,
to
you mean
move.
your target to move. Okay.
Exactly. So I made sure that at that time it was at there was a meetup at the end of June, and so we landed in Lisbon June 4th, 2022, and June 2023. Um, I was like, well, first of all, we'll piggyback off of those other folks meetup. And then there's the Juneteenth thing happening, and then there's all the festivals that happen in June and everything like that. So I was like, got to do this again. We got to do this. We got to do this. And some people did use June 2023 as their date. So like Kendall, who's like the man about town and brings everybody champagne, he used that as his date. And so when Krishan came, Rick was the one who's like, we should be partnering with Krishan. So I was like, yeah, yeah. All like a lot of things that helped us in our move, I had learned from listening to Blacks at Global podcast and YouTube channel. So, so yeah, 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 yeah. And so he's like, yeah, she's on the ball. She's bright, brilliant, blah, 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 whoop de whoop. And so, I was already going to do it, but like we said, there's no competition. There's just collaboration. And so it's like, let's bring the Blacks at Global crew and the Our Black Utopia crew together, because we have the same values, the same vibe, and let's blow this thing out. And I think we had, what, like 180 people this time. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
my
it was a lot of
gosh.
people. It was a lot of people, which is
What?
great, for people to come and, meet in fellowship and see the city, see what our lives are like. They get glimpses of it when they see us in our respective time slots. But when you're experiencing it for hours and you're in some of these venues, you're like, oh, wow, you start to really see it for yourself and want it. And one of the things I think we did really well with the last meetup we had in June is that we also had partnered with an immigration attorney, Sandra Gomes Pinto, and so she was there as well and met with some people who were seriously considering or wanted to know more about what are the visa options are to transition to Portugal. And so it was more than just the community. That was a huge aspect of it. And we also had, fun going on the boat and doing all these wonderful things and eating and fellowship. But we also wanted to add to that by really having the information so that people, when they go back to, in many cases, it was the United States. We did have a few that came from the UK. They walked away with answers. And so
Yeah.
that is one of the things that, really was a game changer and also a foundational part of how we constructed the Move to Portugal Virtual Summit.
Yeah.
Okay, and I love what Jess had to say. It's when you enjoy something, a movie, a meal, and you want other people to experience it too. And
Yeah.
so, y'all, as if you didn't have enough to do, putting together, you know, um,
The
a
meetup.
meetup and all that. This is the second year that y'all are hosting the Move to Portugal Summit. And so if somebody is watching this because they saw the thumbnail and they were like, those are Black ladies and they are creating community abroad, and that got them to watch this, and we've been talking about how awesome y'all's lives are in Portugal. um, what do they need to know? Like, now Portugal is on their radar. Their interest has been piqued. What do they need to know about this event?
First of all, it's November 1st through the 3rd. It's in 2 weeks. 2 weeks
Two
from
weeks.
today. So, so the attorney that she talked about, Sandra Gomes Pinto, is she will be speaking on the visa options as well as wills, estates, and divorce, and even probably marriage, because your marriage certificate does not necessarily transfer to Portugal. Who knows, right? So things that like, how did I learn that at our summit? Right. I should have already known that, but these are not things that you're going to learn in a Facebook group, y'all. These are not things that you're going to learn in a Facebook group. So we have, there are hundreds of English speaking Black expats in the Lisbon metro area. So that's number one. And so we have a huge community here. And then there's subgroups. There's the group with kids, the group without kids, the ones who like sangria, the ones who we have the Sangria Society, the Wine Society. Y'all, look, we have our priorities
We like to
straight.
drink.
And you can get a lovely bottle of wine for like €5. I
Or
mean,
less.
right, and less, and
Or
less.
less.
But I mean, like a €5 bottle of wine here is like a 15 to 18 to 20 bottle in the States, just to get some decent wine, right? But we have folks from Porto, Coimbra, and then all around the metro area that's going to be able to talk about, their areas. You can ask them questions. People who are outside of the Lisbon city center, because y'all hear from us about the city center, y'all know. But we've got someone from Seixal, from Stubal, and from Oeiras. So down the beach area, and then across the river for those Stubal and Seixal. And these are Black folks, y'all. And then we also have a men's panel So, one of the things that, Rick has learned to do is put his shoulders down. He's not all, not avoiding walking by white women anymore. He doesn't have to do that anymore because they ain't afraid of him over here, things like that. So they're going to talk about their things. And then, of course, we've got some women coming on to talk about their healthcare experiences here. And then, Krishan, you want to talk about some of the other technical stuff?
Sure. So we have, as Alicia mentioned, we have Sandra Gomes Pinto coming back and talking about all of the visa options, wills and estates. We also have two different talks on real estate. So one from purchasing a home in Portugal, and the other is understanding the rental market here. Like, how is it different? What do you need to know so that you can have the edge, right? Have the best chance of getting something affordable and where you want. We also have a session on building a business. I saw that as one of the comments about in the chat here. We have a panel on building a business. And so we have two Black Americans who have moved here and started very different businesses, as well as a Portuguese attorney. And that's all she does is help people create businesses and understanding from that perspective. We also have what we cannot avoid as Americans, wherever we live, is taxes, right? So we have a session on taxes so you understand that not so great uncle named Sam is a bit of a stalker. And so understanding what your tax obligation is once you move abroad so that you can go eyes wide open. And then on the Portuguese side of the equation, understanding what your tax liability might be. And I say might because all money isn't created equal, right? Sources of income matter. And so some are taxed or not. And so it's really going to be to give people like a primer so that they understand what those are. I think I covered like the big part of the technical ones, but Halisi, keep me honest if I overlooked any.
You talked about the building the business. I think we hit them all. Oh, and someone who moved here on the
Student visa,
student
yes. Yes,
student
we have
visa
someone
and
who's
adult.
moved here on a student visa as an adult. And then we also, because we have a new sponsor, we are going to talk about really understanding the whole visa process when you employ the help of a relocation specialist who can handle everything from, the initial visa to doing the project management piece and using some case studies to kind of bring it to life.
Now, y'all are Black. You have mentioned that several of your panelists are Black Americans.
Mhm.
Is this event exclusively for Black folks who want to move to Portugal, or is it open?
Mm.
Did we ever make a decision on
No,
that?
I think it's a great question. It's primarily the audience is Black Americans. However, I remember from last year we had a Jamaican Canadian who is living in Germany and considering moving to Portugal. So got a lot of value out of the summit. She has a small child and her spouse who's of German citizenship. And then we've had several members who actually participated in our meetup that are from the UK. And so, because of Brexit, their entrance to Portugal is slightly different. And so, that also might be true of people who have dual citizenship in the UK. I'm sorry, in the dual citizenship in the EU, but then also want to move to Portugal because their pathway is very, very different. So we've designed the summit really to cater to Black Americans, but it's not exclusive.
um,
I just
and
thought
but
I'd
uh,
ask that
the,
because I knew somebody was wondering.
the
Oh
UK
yeah, yeah.
people, the Canadians and the German, they are Black though. They're not non-Black. So yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. It sounds like if I'm somebody considering moving to Portugal, like this is a must attend. Um, Like, because like you said, Halisi, these are not things that you're going to get accurate answers to in a Facebook group. Um, Using Facebook groups, I am not like trying to slander them. I actually run. I'm one of the admins for the Brothers and Sisters in Mexico City. However, you got to take everything you get on Facebook with a grain of salt. You have to then verify, and it sounds like y'all have folks who do this stuff for a living
Right,
coming to talk about and
right.
share, this is what you need to know, this is how you do this.
Yes.
Exactly. Oh, and we didn't talk about Serenity's coming to talk about the healthcare system. And yeah, so that part. So we've got two women who've experienced the healthcare system, and then we also have the expert to talk about the system.
Hmm.
I remember when I was trying to do this thing, and there was no Move to Portugal Summit. Somebody had a DIY little course on, through their YouTube channel. American and Friends in Portugal had forms and all of that, and they had a step by step piece of paper. If I lived in San Francisco, maybe I would have tried that. But having to fly back and forth from Denver and stay overnight in expensive ass San Francisco was not the key. And so I had just gone to Exodus Summit. So putting together a move abroad plan was not my problem. I needed stuff on Portugal, and I was panicked. And there was so much that I didn't know. And I know because we get questions like, well, do you have to give up citizenship in the United States? So I know these people don't know either because
Hmm.
they ask those kind of questions. I know they don't know, which is okay. There was a time, well, I've known that part for a long time, but there was a time when I didn't know. And there was all of the things that it takes to move to Portugal. Mexico, y'all know we have permanent residency in Mexico. Mexico is a lot easier than Portugal. You have to want to come to Portugal. So before spending a bunch of money, because the price of our ticket, like, you can't even get a consultation with half the folks.
No, that's
Hmm.
okay. I think we need to spend a little time there because I know this is a pet peeve of mine, and I am at some point going to create content on it. This is something I blame the United States for, this constant pursuit of cheapness. And it's like a thing without a bottom. And people scoff at the idea of, oh, well, I got to pay to find that out. There's the internet. But like you said, Halisi, just the ticket price, you get access to all of these experts for less than it would cost you to talk to one of them.
Hmm.
And putting together a move, you're going to need multiple experts.
Yes.
I don't know of any other space where you're going to get all of these answers all in one place.
Yeah, it really is your one stop shop. We have curated this event now for our second year. And one of the reasons why we did do another summit was that there were some substantive changes that happened in the year from the time we did it the first time.
Right.
Because Adelia, right? When you're living in a country, just like in America, right? Things change. And so, what were the substantive changes that we needed to bring? What were the new, maybe not new areas, but we had people to bring to life different parts that weren't featured before. But
Mhm.
like we had banking changes that took place this year in Portugal. The NHR went away and at least morphed into a different one. And so, we really wanted to give people the opportunity to get, validated information from trusted experts. And then if they decide that Portugal is something that they want to pursue, that they have points of contact that they can follow up. So this is an investment that keeps you from crowdsourcing in with a bunch of strangers who are, you ask one question and you're getting 50 different answers, and then you have the responsibility and the overwhelm of trying to sift through and figure out, well, this person said this, but then that person said that, and that kind of flies in the face of this. And so you don't come away with any more concrete answer than you did when you asked the
That's
question.
right.
And that is not what we aim to do in this summit. And that's not what we did in the previous summit. We wanted people to have an opportunity to ask questions and get those questions answered. And so that is an investment in yourself, because moving abroad is a mammoth undertaking. And so how do you ensure to the best degree possible that you are successful in that? You do that by getting in community, which we've talked about at length today. And
Yes.
then you talk about and with experts that can help you sharpen your plan.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I was going to say something, but I lost it. I do like this question, though. For those of us who are unsure about our country of choice, what makes Portugal unique compared to the other countries in the EU?
Okay. Nothing compares. No. Um, so I think the biggest thing for us as Black folks, as folks from the diaspora, is the white Portuguese relationship to Black Portuguese and to the diaspora. It is different. It feels different. It looks different. And I didn't realize that until I went back to Spain and I was like, oh, yeah, that's the thing that was like kind of making me uncomfortable that I couldn't put my mind on. So, what do I mean by that? When the first pharmacy that I went to, the pharmacist is Black. All right.
Let
Okay.
me interrupt you here because we know I did not fall in love with Portugal. Okay. But when I first visited, the thing that immediately hit me, because I had been other places in Western Europe, was the fact that there were Black and Brown people running businesses and they were not existing at the fringes of society, selling fake purses or whatever in a sheet and you got to wrap it up because the cop is coming. Like, I was struck by that, and that put Portugal on a list that I was like, oh, I need to investigate this a little bit further to figure out if it was a good fit. Ultimately, it's not a good fit for me, but going someplace, I don't know that I've been a place in the United States where there was a Black pharmacist.
See, that's sad. I mean,
Mhm.
I have in LA anyway, but that's sad, right? And so, and
Mhm.
that's what I was going to say. They're not, well, we do have some Africans hawking stuff on the sheet
But
over in the
they don't
tourist area.
exist there exclusively.
Exactly. And that's all I saw in Spain, right? Um, Belgium's just too damn cold. And it's not as diverse. Same with same with England. England is diverse, but it's too damn cold. So
Yeah.
you get the California of Europe as far as weather goes.
Mhm.
You get a lot of diversity, even in the smaller towns. Like when I was saying the other day, we were in Evora. I don't know how small of a town, but it's a town. It's a town.
Mhm.
And the people right across the street were Black. So, even in small towns, and we were staying in the tourist area, but they were living there.
Mhm.
And so even in small towns, you see the diversity. You don't feel like that odd person out. And so that's a big thing. Anything that you can do in the States, you can do here. So there's theaters, there's concerts, there's jazz, there's all of that stuff. There's all different types of food, places I'd never even heard of. Like I didn't know Macau was a former colony of Portugal,
Mhm.
So there's Asian food, there's Southeast Asian food, there's Brazilian food, which I just love. The Portuguese food is just okay. Japanese food. I do like their collard green soup though. So yeah, this is a specialty of Portugal, collard green soup. So you can find your collard greens here, y'all. And so I think the biggest thing is that, and then the second thing is, and I have to give a shout out again to Black in Portugal because that was the beginning of me creating our little friend group, is meeting people at their meetups, and they would have a karaoke night. every month, and we would go, and we'd start to meet people, and that was the beginning of our friend group. So that when we had our scouting trip, June 2022, went home, packed, went to our meeting. Went to a meeting, went home, packed, came back on a tourist visa because I'm not waiting because I'm paying rent. I'm paying rent here. We landed, and then 2 days later, it was Rick's birthday, and we already had friends that we had kept in contact with from the meetups to have a birthday dinner for my husband. And that was like, welcome to Portugal.
Hmm.
So, yeah. And somebody was asking about the cost of living. I'll just say that right quick. We paid 1,300 euro a month for a 3-bedroom apartment. In the States, this would probably be a 2-bedroom and an office, and it's only got one bathroom. So we live very simply, but it's 1,300. And then our average utilities on the high side without our cell phone is like 150, and on the low side it's like 110 a month. That's euros. And then the cell phone is for 2 people, all you can eat. I think we pay 53 with taxes, something like that.
Yeah, no, my side, I'm solo. I'm here with my dog, and my living
Dog.
expenses are just like, I don't know, if I had to put it all together, I'd say 2,700 a month all in. And that's, my rent is, I'm in a new building, new build, with
Elevator.
an elevator and a parking spot and 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, and it's 1,900. And when I add utilities and my phone, it's another like 150, just because it's very energy efficient. My bills are like non-existent, my utility bills, which is very, very different than my utility bills in the United States. So with all of that, and that's with eating out, 2, 3 times a week, and, taking Ubers different places and going further out, I live a very comfortable lifestyle. And yeah, definitely way less than the life I was living in the United States.
Yeah.
I would say the thing, and again, I am not I'm not the biggest cheerleader for Portugal, but if you're trying to suss out like why Portugal and not some other place in the EU, if one of your goals is citizenship in an EU country, I don't know any place that's going to happen for you as as fast as it will in Portugal.
Five
Hmm.
years. 5 years and you
Yeah.
get to apply. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that, I think the ladies here have given lots of compelling reasons to make Portugal an option, if not the
Mhm.
place for you.
Yeah.
If somebody cannot attend the summit uh, 2 weeks from now, which is
November
November
1st
1st,
through the
2nd,
3rd.
3rd. If they
Hmm.
can't, they just found out about it, they got something else on the schedule. Are there replays?
Hmm. Absolutely.
Yes. Yes. And so one ticket comes with replays for a month, the other for 8 or 9 months. And so, yeah. The other thing is that the two other things is we have better healthcare than the United States, y'all.
True.
By all measures, not just our opinion. And this is like the sixth safest country in the world.
The whole world.
It's so safe. We had our first armed robbery this year since I've been here. And I've been here basically since what, July 2022.
That's
First one.
October. That's quite
And you would have thought, like when you looked in the WhatsApp groups, because the news thing went into the WhatsApp groups. You looked in the WhatsApp, Adelia, you would have thought it was January 6th, the way these people were acting. Maybe I think I'm gonna get some more locks on my door and this and that. It's like, Negro, you from Atlanta. What you talking about? And plus, it was way out there in the beach, Beverly Hills, 30 minutes away. But still, I mean, it could happen anywhere.
Hmm.
But y'all are overreact. The first one. Now, of course, we never like to see that happen, but we are from the States where there is a mass murder every week, if not every other day.
Mm-hmm.
But they were tripping.
Yeah.
They were
Mm-hmm.
tripping.
Yeah. That
Because
so
women
I
walk around
I
at
think
night by themselves here. 10 o'clock at night, you
Mhm.
will see little old ladies coming from bingo or wherever the heck they're coming from with a grocery bag in their purse. And I mean, like, I'm old, I'm 60, but I call these little old ladies, like with the purple hair, right? And so skinny you could blow them over. Not a care in the world.
Mm-hmm.
There is peace in that. There is peace
Mm-hmm.
walking by the police, and they're too busy playing Candy Crush on their phone to even pay attention to you.
Yeah, yeah. It's a real blessing to not have to be so hyper vigilant as you are in the States. And that has been something I've had to like consciously train my brain to, put my shoulders down and, be able to take a full breath, right? Like that is something that I enjoy. And I do stuff now like that I never did before. I walk around, I take pictures of flowers and, go to these wonderful concerts, a lot of them free. Have
Oh yeah.
these great experiences like and then, just to get back to the affordability, like I saw today that Lenny Kravitz is coming next year, and the best ticket, right, the Golden Circle ticket, is €70 a piece. I was
I haven't paid that in the States since.
hey, so I'm like and that's what I paid when I went to see Shaka Khan over the summer, and we were front row and ended up on her Instagram. But like front row concert, like front row, first row concert seats. I'm like, I would have paid out the behind,
Two, three, 400. Krishan
right?
even has a selfie with the president of Portugal, y'all.
Yes, yes. I've met him a few times. Yes,
I ain't met
yes.
him.
y'all out here living life. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know what else we can say. One about why Portugal is a good choice, um, or your event. Because again, I don't know any other place that you're going to get all of those resources, all of that expertise at that price.
right.
Like
Hmm.
it, it's a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. So what you waiting for, y'all? What you waiting for?
Yeah, what are
Come
They waiting for the
through.
price to go up. That's what they're waiting for.
well, get your ticket. I have dropped the link in the chat. If you are watching this on the replay and you want to snag a ticket, there is a link in the description of this video. Um, we had this question earlier, uh, and I'm curious as to what your response is. We all three of us are literally, and I know a lot of times people say stuff and you think, oh, they're just saying that or it's hyperbole. When I say the three of us are living the lives of our dreams, that I mean that with 100% conviction. So we're all out here living lives that we never knew were possible. We could not have lived in the United States. And just wants to know, um, how do you deal with friends and family who do not share this dream of moving abroad?
Ooh.
I'm an only child. So I mean, so I found an older sister through ancestry.com, and I have a younger sister, but she's 16 years younger than me. So I was raised as an only child, which my mom says makes me selfish. You see, you notice I said my mama said. Look, Jess, they ain't paying your bills. Like, no one gets an opinion who is not participating in the well-being of Halisi. So that
Yeah.
included Rick and me. That did not include our grown kids. We told them, we didn't ask them for their opinion. And we did get, why would you want to move? Now, our youngest son was like, um, so I could stay in the house. Peace. But the other ones, the California and whatnot, they're like, why would you ever want to leave the United States? They didn't get it. They did not get it. My friends did because we traveled together. So they got it. And everywhere we went, it was like, "Ooh, I think we could live here. Ooh, I think we could live here." So they already knew. We started on, on the tour bus looking up real estate in the town that we're in. So they knew. They knew. And I had to pinch myself because this year we will have gone to, not only traveled around Portugal, but South Africa, Brussels, or should say Belgium, because we visited a couple places in Belgium and Thailand and Singapore. Like, this would have been each one of those would have been every other year in the States,
Hmm.
you know.
Hmm. Yeah. And for me, I did a lot of prep work before I left. I had the benefit of having the time. So I decided, that I was going to move abroad in 2017, but I didn't move until 2023. So that gave me quite a bit of time to put my affairs in order financially, as well as my family, get my mom prepped, get my kids on board in terms of what life was going to look like for them because they're now adults. Excuse me one second. I have a little tickle in my throat.
Well, I'm going to say while she's coughing, speaking about mom, she was not on board, Jess, and she was in denial. But now that she is being taken care of and she no longer has to worry about her life, every time I talk to her, she just says, "I'm so proud of you and Rick. Where are you going now?" So
Mm-hmm.
now that she feels calm about her life, she's good with me not being there.
Mm-hmm. Same
Yeah.
is true with my mom. She was very resistant at first. And, I had to understand like where she is in her life, as well as the influences she had in her early life, right? But once I had all of that down pat and my daughter and I did therapy, got mom on board, that's all I cared about.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
say it's just because you want something, you can't make other people want that
For
too.
you.
You can't make them want that for you. And so people are going to feel how they're going to feel. What is important, what I'm always going to say is important is, what do you want? What is going to make you happy?
Yeah.
Exactly.
You can't control other folks. So
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
And
You
I
barely control
there's a
yourself.
great thing that people don't utilize enough that I love is the block feature. I'm sorry. There are former colleagues or just people, acquaintances that I've distanced myself from because the relationships were only maintained because of, well, I don't want to cut this person off or burn that bridge because I might need that job or that relationship. Like, look, I don't put enough money away. Bye. I ain't never working with somebody else again anyway. Snip, snip, right? That crazy cousin that just wants to keep asking you the same question 10 million times, 6 different ways Sunday, blah, blah, right? I don't care, right? Because anytime I engage with someone who brings negativity, and that's very different than inquisitive, right? Being like curious about life. I have no problem sharing. But I also realize that I do have a public platform. And so many of the questions that you're asking can be answered by listening to the podcast, coming into the community, etc. Sometimes it's just being voyeuristic. And, I'm having such an amazing time living my life, cultivating the life that I've always wanted, and helping people who really want this for themselves. I don't have time to feed into the negativity and the idle curiosity that is just meant to either be nosy or to secretly hate on the life that I live. I don't have time for it anymore. I don't have that much time left on the clock. So I love the block feature. I highly recommend that if people want to use it. It's really great. Most devices have that. So 10 out of 10, highly recommend.
Is there anything else we need to say?
Um, the only thing that I can say is don't let fear be the thing that keeps you from doing something. Just don't. You can do it anyway because look, I didn't know how this was going to turn out. I loved it for a month. Well, am I going to love it for year 3, year 4, year 5? I don't know. But what I do know is we have prepared financially to pivot. So get your ducks in a row and just move through it with fear, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and come to the summit, hear from the other people on how they did it, hear what their lives are like, and then that will give you a sense that Halisi and Krishan are not blowing smoke up your butt because Adelia couldn't find her favorite hot chocolate here, and she didn't like the heels.
I would say for anyone who's considering a move abroad and Portugal is on their list, may not be the short list or whatever, I think you owe it to yourself to make the investment to find out whether or not it's right for you, right? If you have your
Keep
list
them
of
coming.
questions and you make this investment and you spend 2.5 days with us and our experts and you realize Portugal's not for you, well, guess what? That investment saved you from packing up all your stuff and sending it, a whole ocean away. And then maybe getting here, realizing that this is not consistent with what you want for yourself. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, good point.
Well said. Well said, ladies. Thank you both for joining me today. Guys, again, if Portugal is in the realm of possibility for you, um, the best thing you can do for yourself is go to the Move to Portugal Summit. It is November 1st through the 3rd. We had several folks asking about a 2025. I Who knows? So don't, I know it's very easy to be like, maybe not this year, maybe next year. Do they sound like they are looking for work to do? Like they may do this and be like, girl, you know what? Next year, I don't feel like doing this. And then there is no summit. So, because again, I think that's a thing we hold on from the US, this idea that people are going to perpetually keep doing things, keep working. And as somebody who has a couple of businesses, it's very often I'm like, maybe it's time for me to throw in the towel because I don't know that I feel like doing this anymore. So if Portugal is a possibility for you, you are curious, you want to get the information, you need to be there November 1st through the 3rd. You can grab the link in the description of this video.
Yes, yes,
Thank you,
yes, yes.
ladies.
Thank
Definitely.
you. This is
Thank
great.
you.